It is my great pleasure to bring on stage for our very, very first session of the day, talking about using Amazon's AI platform to launch mobile apps. Please welcome Vice President of AI at Amazon, Swami Sivasubramanian.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here. So today I'll be talking about how Amazon and millions of AWS customers are using AI to build truly innovative applications for their customers. So as many of you know, Amazon has thousands of engineers focused on AI, right from fulfillment and logistics. So many of you might have shopped yesterday in Amazon Prime Day. So when you click on something like for an item, we actually use underlying machine learning technologies to predict when it will deliver. And when you click on something to buy an item, we again, to fulfill the item in terms of in our fulfillment centers, we use computer vision and robotics to actually physically carry those items from where they are in shelves to the fulfillment center associates. So you don't, as a fulfillment center associate, you don't have to walk so much distance in a given day to go pick up those and then bring back to the packing desk. Instead, we use AI and robotics actually to move the items to where our FC associates are so that we can simplify their lives. And we also use machine learning technologies for search and discovery. So even 20 years ago, when Amazon.com and the world was figuring out how to build websites, we use personalized recommendations for what books to buy. And nowadays, when you go to Amazon.com, we use state-of-the-art deep learning systems to recommend what products you might be interested in buying. We also use AI technologies for improving experiences of existing products. For instance, we use computer vision technologies in Amazon Instant Video. Amazon Instant Video has a cool feature called X-ray. So X-ray enables customers, when you freeze any frame in a given video, it actually tells you who are all the actors and actresses in a given frame. So, and it has links to IMDb profiles and so forth. So when my wife and I have a debate about who is the actor in this given show, and the debate is settled very easily. We just freeze a frame, and it so happens most of the time she is right. So the other area where we use machine learning is in Amazon.com shopping mobile app. So there we have a camera button, and when you using that, you can actually point to an item that might exist in the desk, and actually using computer vision technologies, we can recognize what that item is, and we can give you a link for you to buy instantly. So you don't have to search for, oh, does this look like this, or so forth. And we also enable visual search of your photos in Amazon Prime Photos app, so that, for instance, I can actually find all the photos of my 2-year-old last Christmas within actually probably a very simple search in Amazon Prime Photos, or through Alexa for that matter. So, and we are also using AI technologies to create new kind of products that were not possible before. A primary example is Amazon Echo, which has the famous Alexa. So if you see my household, my 2-year-old daughter talks to Alexa like it's a real person. So when she wants to listen to her favorite song, like Wheels on the Bus, she doesn't come to me or my wife and say, can you ask it to play? She actually just says, Alexa, play Wheels on the Bus. And underlying Alexa actually uses state-of-the-art deep learning technology for automatic speech recognition, natural language understanding, to know when someone says, do this, it recognizes the speech, understands the intent behind it, and calls the appropriate backend API for it. So that's how we are actually building a highly powerful cloud assistant for our consumers. And Alexa, in addition to speaking and understanding, it can also now use computer vision to do more and more innovative things. The other interesting example I always mention is Amazon Go. So Amazon Go is a very different concept in terms of a retail store. It is a no checkout, just walkout technology for a retail store. So imagine a retail store like this where a customer can just walk in, scanning in their mobile phone app, and then they can actually walk to any shelf, pick up any item they want. And if they change their mind, they can drop off and then walk out without having to do any kind of checkout register. First time, even though I've worked with the team to build this technology, but the first time I actually used it, I felt like this is shoplifting, except legitimized. I mean, because yes, we will know what you picked, and we will charge. So, but how does it work? Again, we use computer vision technologies to recognize when a person is walking in and what activity they are doing. Are they picking up, for instance, a cheese cupcake? Or did they change their mind and put it back? So we can actually track and make sure that they don't have to go through the process of manually adding these things. Instead, they can just walk out at the end of the day. So you might be wondering, saying like, hey, looks like the future is almost here. Why are we not seeing more and more of this everywhere in the millions of apps that exist? The problem is that machine learning is still in its infancy, where it is still requires a lot of expertise, be it computer vision or speech recognition, where you need to have PhD in these topics to put them to use in production. So that's why internally we joke saying like, the future is here, but it's just not evenly distributed. So that's where AWS comes in. Just like how AWS, what it did for IT industry, freeing up IT, we want to give access to all these AI technologies that Amazon has built internally and put it in the hands of our millions of developers. So in AWS, we are offering AI in the hands of every developer. At the top layer, you have services catered towards app developers who do not need to have any knowledge about machine learning, deep learning, or computer vision, or so forth. And in the next layer, it is catered towards platforms for data scientists to build machine learning models. And then the next layer is for algorithms for these scientists to pick and choose which ones they want to build these algorithms for on top of our infrastructure. Let me just briefly mention some of the AI services we launched. One of them is recognition. So recognition is an AWS service which takes an image. In this example, with this image, it recognizes that there's a skateboard, a human, and there are trees and cars around. It can take a face and actually tell the gender, guess the age range, and the emotion, and so forth. And it can also do a face search. Given a database of, let's say, millions of faces, it can recognize is this person, who this person is in that database, for instance. So recognition has been out for like 6 months, and we have had like many, many interesting use cases. For instance, C-SPAN, a public service television channel, built an automated video footage tagging in a matter of 3 weeks. Again, given a video, let's say any kind of briefing or so forth, they can run these through recognition to index against 99,000 people or politicians. And this has saved like more than 9,000 hours of manual labor. Imagine the improvement in productivity. The other example is Washington Sheriff County Office in Oregon. Again, there they don't have any experts in computer vision or deep learning, but they actually were able to use recognition to decrease the identification process from 2 to 3 days to a matter of less than minutes. And what's more amazing is within a week of going live, the solution identified a suspect for a cold case that led to an arrest. Look at the power of what AI services can do for like app developers. Now, the other service I want to talk about is Polly. So Polly is a lifelike speech service that takes text in and speech out. So it converts, and Polly speaks in 24 languages and 48 voices. And Poly has been used in a wide variety of use cases. One of them is Duolingo. It's a, very popular e-learning platform that has more than 170 million users. And they are using Poly after extensive vetting of many text-to-speech vendors. And Poly has been used for various use cases, right from actually not just Duolingo, but like Royal National Institute of Blind, which uses Poly to generate these audiobooks. And the interesting thing about Poly is it doesn't restrict you from reusing the speech that you have already converted. You can convert your text to speech once, and then you can it's your speech, your MP3 file, you're welcome to redistribute it as you feel. So the final one I want to highlight is Lex. Amazon Lex is a conversational chatbot as a service. I'll just walk through an example of how, let's say, a customer is trying to book a hotel. Again, Lex is what is the heart of Alexa. That's why we literally named it in a non-creative fashion, Lex, by taking the A out of Alexa on both sides and called it Lex. So. And Lex, basically, in this example, it lets you book a hotel. So when a customer says, I'd like to book a hotel, it recognizes the intent is booking a hotel. And a developer using Lex can configure it to say, I need 2 parameters to my API calls to book a hotel. One is destination, where the hotel is, and the other one is what is the check-in date. And then Lex, through, again, AI technologies, will carry the conversation with the user to ask the questions and get back the answer. And then once we have these 2 parameters, it'll call the backend book hotel API. And that's pretty much it. And Lex integrates with Mobile Hub, our single one-stop shop for building mobile apps, and also it integrates with web and devices and call center in the cloud, and also with Facebook Messenger and Slack as well. So a great example for Lex is like American Heart Association. They use Lex to register Heart Walk participants. The reason is because voice interaction eliminates the need for reading and typing and all that, and it's much more easier. So using this, they are starting to build a more engaging registration process for their customers as well. So that's kind of the top layer services in a nutshell. As I mentioned, for data scientists and ML-savvy engineers who want to build their own models, we have platforms like Amazon ML and our Spark-based services along with deep learning engines as well to build their own. I just want to quickly touch on area of like, there is so much excitement around deep learning and AI. In Amazon, we have been using it for quite a while. All things from like applied research, Q&A systems, translation, advertising, and so forth. To actually, as I mentioned, like robotics and so forth. And AWS has been a center of gravity for AI for quite a while now. So we have customers right from like Zillow running Zestimate for predicting the value of real estate, to Netflix doing customized personalization recommendation, to NASA running their machine learning systems on us. So today, I'm excited to get Andy from Kelley Blue Book, which is the company that I first used to get my first car, to show how they are actually using Lex to build a highly innovative bot to interact with their customers. Thanks a lot, Andy.
Thank you, Swami. So, Swami just mentioned, my name is Andy Lapine. I'm the chief architect for Kelley Blue Book. For those of you that don't know, most people that grew up in the United States are familiar with Kelley Blue Book, but we're a company that helps consumers, car shoppers, find their new car. So we help mostly in the valuation space. You know, how much should I pay for a new car? How much is my current car worth? Should I trade it? Should I sell it myself? Et cetera. At the top of the slide, you see Cox Automotive. So we're owned by a bigger company. It's an umbrella company called Cox Automotive. For those of you that know Cox Communications, yes, it is the same Cox family that owns Cox Automotive too, but we're a pretty large ecosystem of automotive shopping and dealership software companies. So that is almost all of them. The consumer brands that we have are KBB.com and Autotrader.com, the two most used consumer sites on the internet. But if anybody's ever tried a dealership website, we probably also serve the dealership website side of the business. And then, if you think of dealerships as businesses, all the suite of products that any business needs, we operate in that space. So let's get back to Kelley Blue Book and why I'm here on stage. So Kelley Blue Book started in 1926. And I like to say that we are the first mobile-first company. Maybe not exactly the first, but close. So this is our Blue Book. This isn't the 1923 version, but they were very specifically sized to fit in somebody's back pocket. So a dealer, mostly a dealer, because we sold to dealers at the time, could walk around on a lot and flip open the book and find the price of their car. The great thing about the book, if you drop it, it didn't break. Also, dealers weren't running around looking for plugs to make sure they had power. When desktop computing became ubiquitous, we then switched from a dealer-focused company that produced books to a media company that served car shoppers instead of car dealers. And we also switched from a mobile-first company to a desktop-first company, right? You now had to go do everything on the desktop. You had to print it out. You had to have the information ready to go to the dealership. So we were very excited when mobile became popular because then we could actually give car shoppers the tools that they needed to go make good deals at the dealership and have all the information to feel comfortable about their purchase. So obviously the next evolution and the topic of this conference is AI. How do we use AI products? So when we thought about what's a great use case for Kelley Blue Book to use AI products, we thought about what's the natural way that people use voice, and we're specifically talking about voice. What's the natural way people use their voice in the car shopping process? And one of the things that we thought of is everybody's accustomed to going to a dealership and you sit down and the guy takes your keys and you don't see them again until you actually sign all the paperwork, if you ever get your keys back, and you talk. How much is my car worth? And they tell you. How much should I pay for a new car? We thought this was a very natural way that people use their voice already, and this was a great use case for us to think about how we're going to evolve our products, which are very click and touch oriented, to using natural language in a way that feels natural to people and not forced. Now, we chose to use Amazon Lex, which is the technology behind Alexa. And Lex, the big difference for me is it's just not the hardware part of it, right? We bring our own app, we embed it into our app, as opposed to Alexa, that they bring the hardware, somebody has to buy that separately. The great thing about using Lex, and one of the primary reasons we chose Lex, is most of the work is reusable. So you're basically doing the same thing to build an Alexa skill as to embed Lex into your app. Other primary reason we chose Lex, we're moving all of our infrastructure to AWS anyway. Anybody that's had to deal with IAM roles in AWS knows we've already put all that effort into it. Might as well reuse it for one more thing. I have one laugh in the whole room. That's great. So we didn't want to build this ourselves. It obviously doesn't make sense for a company like Kelley Blue Book to build a chatbot framework ourselves. We obviously wanted to use AWS, but we have some very specific challenges. And one great example of a specific challenge we have that we don't see productized offerings coming are, we actually have in our database more than 100 different ways to refer to air conditioning. Yes, more than 100 ways to talk about air conditioning in a car. You would think it would be maybe 4, but it's over 100. So we have a lot of work to do, and we have really a lot of exciting stuff in natural language processing that we're working on ourselves with our own experts in AI to try to make that process easier. But with all that set up now, why don't we just go right to a demo and see Lex in action? So if we can go ahead and run the demo.
What is my 2012 Honda worth?
What model is your 2012 Honda?
Civic.
Is this Honda Civic a sedan or coupe?
Sedan.
What style is your Civic sedan?
Hybrid.
What is the condition of your Civic?
Very good.
How many miles on this 2012 Honda?
$58,629.
The current Kelley Blue Book trade-in value for your 2012 Honda Civic Hybrid sedan with 58,629 miles is $7,069.
So great. You can see that we didn't talk about air conditioning there. That's a future project that we're working on. But what we did was we used Lex and Polly now to have a completely natural voice interaction. We can do this on text too. We showed a video to take some of the variables of presenting on stage and voice recognition out of the mix, but if anybody wants to find me later, I have this running on my phone. I'll be happy to show it to you. Also want to say that Dennis Hills from AWS helped us in developing this, and he has a workshop later today at 12:15 in Treasure Island. And thank you very much.